Welcome, everyone. So let's take a little time and sit comfortably and drop in together. Change the way that you're sitting. Do something different. So whether it's just switching the way the legs are crossed or whatever happens, it's the variation is key. A wider context, more possibilities. One of our gifts as humans is pattern recognition, and when we can turn that brilliance towards our own lives and see the patterns both positive and negative, much of the negative patterning will be revealed by a greater diversity of movement. So just sitting with the other leg in front or sitting differently will inform where we tend to be comfortable and where we're not. Push the sitting bones down just a little bit more enthusiastically, like you're pushing the earth down and back behind you. So the sits bones hook in and they pull the ground back. The pelvis tips forward a little bit until the legs turn on more globally, and then even the buttocks turn on a little bit, and the belly comes a little closer to the spine, the core turning on. And this is reciprocated within the spaciousness of the lungs and the heart, as they trust the support from below. And perspective is everything. We may have been trained or may have come to a place where we hold these projected outcomes of a way of sitting or a certain postural space. But this is exhausting. What if the perspective is it's to say yes. It's to say yes without the agenda. So Gravity, as your teacher, can allow you to feel, as you did when you were just a baby and started sitting up for the first time, what it is to be totally upright in the pelvis, to be a little bit on in the core belly and in the deep belly, and what it is to stack our spine upright in gravity. So it's really easy, it's almost semantic. You could say, well, it's great to just hold that, but let it hold you. And this is the shift of perspective that we need. And to also understand what our baseline strength is, our nominal tone. So sitting is ancient. Change the way that you're sitting again. Do something else. A third variation. So just that shift right there, it moves energy, right? We're not bound to a specific structure. The uprightness continues, your experience as a conscious human sitting up, sky above and ground below, and the relationship between these 2 points of reference is so much more colorful when we allow ourselves to explore. So begin to allow the pelvis to rock a little bit backwards and forwards. Start with letting the pelvis roll back. We do this often. It's one of the best ways to sort of reset our foundation and to reignite the core engine. And then hooking the sitting bones into the fabric of the earth, you're going to pull the ground back and let the pelvis tip forward as far as it will go. And as you get all the way to the front of where you can go this moment, let the belly draw back a little bit towards the spine. So go back and forth. You know, it can be as small a movement or as large a movement as you're comfortable with. Pelvis rolls back, the chin drops, pelvis rolls forward. You'll probably get into a little bit of a back bend and look up. So we're just playing with this kind of like the yoga cat-cow, but sitting upright. So the pelvis is rediscovering its spaciousness in this relationship between back and front. But the tone through the lower body is consistent. Sometimes you'll find moments of intermittent engagement. This is totally normal, but abnormal at the same time. So your tone wants to smooth itself out and stay constant, consistent. It's just like presence. So if you can start to cultivate the consistency of tone through the hips, through the musculature in and around the pelvis, and around the legs, the leg bones, and then through the whole lower half of the torso, rocking into and away from front and back. It's quite strong. Let the arms be free. So you start moving as if you're moving in water, moving in something more viscous than air, giving you a sense of self-intelligence, self-resistance, a deep, complex, subtle engagement. Loosen the neck. As you find the wave after wave of movement, let the head look around. So one of the important pieces here is to let the pelvis move first. Change the way that you're sitting. The fourth iteration, but continue to allow the pelvis to move in this anterior-posterior dance. So if you're sitting in clay, sitting in the riverbed, moving the earth, so healing for the pelvic floor, so healing for the first, second, third chakras, the root of the tree, the trunk of the tree. Very strong, everyone, very powerful. So the dance is the simple rhythm of exploring movement. Couple more moments here, last couple of pulsations. Go super slow and super strong. Now go ahead and sit cross-legged with either leg in front. Pause for a moment. Give yourself a chance to feel everything you just stirred up. Especially the space in and around the pelvis, the sacrum, the hips, the hip joints, the lower spine, much more free, much more saturated by the breath of life. Now, start to move side to side and without touching the floor yet. And this is another one that we do very much. The complement to the front back movement is the side to side pulsation, the bilateral. And so as you lean the torso from side to side, you end up putting a lot more weight on one hip. And depending on lots of variables like how tight the hip is or the side belly or both, you're probably going to start floating the light side hip, which is totally cool. You can try to keep the hip close to the floor, but don't keep it attached to the floor. You don't want to force anything, and we're not looking for a stretch, right? We're going to feel a stretch, definitely, because already you're feeling this in the lateral belly, the side belly, even on the back. And so that's just an invitation to engage those places so that you don't feel an obvious stretch. You feel length, you feel space, but you also feel strength. Length and strength, simultaneous. You can start taking an elbow or a tricep against one knee as you lean into it a little bit more. Let the head look around. Keep the belly weave, the tapestry of the belly, fantastically strong. Now that's all the way around the spine, not just the front belly. We're not sucking the belly in, we're bringing an organized tone to the entire lower half of the torso, the functional torso. Roll the shoulders in different directions, mostly back, exposing the chest and opening the length of the collarbones. Oh, just rocking the boat literally, and go slow, again in water. Laying a tricep or the back of an arm just lightly on one side allows you to go a little bit deeper without collapsing all your tone that you're working so hard to revive. So the complexity, which means the deep global variations through your whole conscious animal. This is the language of healing as we return to what's possible at any age, at any level of experience. It's all relative. You start reaching your arms across the midline as you lean to one side so you can go even further, so we counterbalance. And then how do you find your own variations, your own play within this gentle shape, this seated play? So when you work, you're working everything. The hands, every joint articulated, strong and slow and yummy. The breath wild and uncontrolled, meaning no manipulation or technique. Just allow for breath. Allow for the heart to beat its shamanic beat. Start putting a hand down on one side and take it into a deeper movement. Now, here it's very important to keep the shoulder blade close to the spine and towards the tail. Look down for a while to loosen the neck. And then coming back across to the other side. Now, if it's too much on that shoulder, you can use your free hand to assist, just pressing on the knee or the floor. So we want to be really smart. We do want to load the shoulder, but we want to go in slow. It's always about smart progression, everybody. I know that sounds remedial, but we can push in too fast, too far, too fast. You can go far enough to lay the head down. And again, the shoulder head stays away from the floor magnetically. And this is really important that we warm the shoulders up for the sequence that we're going to do towards the end of class, where we're going to work on double backflips with a half twist, landing in a handstand, and doing push-ups or something like that. That's a joke, but there's nobody here to laugh. So, not that anyone would laugh. I'm just saying. Warm the shoulders up. Get close to the ground with your head if you can. Use both hands if you need to. And then what we're going to do is just go ahead and at your leisure switch the way the legs are crossed. The other leg in front and keep going. Now the leg that's in front, let's say it's your left foot. When you lean to your right, you're going to set your front leg. But that's only if you're going, your left leg sets if you're leaning to your right. If your right leg is in front, you're going to set the right leg only when you lean to your left. So this is just a transitional thing and a way of balancing and also grounding it just a little bit more. Take care of the joints, ankles, strong, knees, sound, shoulders, breathing. So you should be getting quite toasty now. Now make sure the neck is not compensating by getting cranky and stiff. We want to loosen the neck while we work the shoulders. This is very tricky because normally the neck is trying to help out, but it can't help out. It needs to melt while the shoulders work. And this is disentangling the complex codependencies in the shoulders and the neck. 30 seconds, everyone, 30 seconds. Oh. Strong belly. Keep the legs, the buttocks on. And last push. And then come on up. And take the legs out relatively wide, not too wide. Bend the knees. Point the toes up, heels are down, there's some space under the backs of the legs. Lay the fingertips lightly on the ground and just feel how the sits bones connect with the earth. And we're going to push the ground down and back, okay? So this leans the pelvis in. So let's do the opposite like we did when we were sitting. Let the pelvis roll back, let the legs turn out, drop the chin, which is a sweet release when it's conscious. Feel it release through the inner groin, through the inner hip. And then bending the knees, and all at once, hooking your sitting bones into the fabric of the ground, pull the ground back behind you, turning the legs to zero rotation, toes up, knees up, and the pelvis leans forward. Now let the spine lean over the top, just 30, 40 degrees. Spread the chest, spread the shoulders, spread the mind, back the head up a little bit into a sky pillow. You're going to start moving side to side with the torso. And try to keep the chest relatively level with the floor. Free the hands, just moving side to side in this space. So what we're doing is delaminating the 3 hamstrings in each leg. Not only from each other, but also from the surrounding tissue, the adductors, the inner thighs, very complex, multi-layered space, also delaminating, meaning becoming unstuck and reorganizing. So you've got to be strong where you're feeling the stretch. If you pull the heels down, you'll probably do a lot in the direction of taking care of the hamstrings so they're not being just stretched. They need to work. Do something different with your toes. Soften between the brows. Just another couple of moments here. So you should have a nice burn going on, but it's not the burn of stretch. It's a burn of working the backs of the legs, clearing the back channel, emptying our history lovingly. Okay, and we're going to come back up and sit cross-legged with either leg in front. So we take that open space and we fold it in upon itself, the flower closing in the evening. And then just feel everything that is so deeply opening and stirred positively, stirred consciously. For example, maybe the flesh in the backs of both legs. That circulatory response, energetic response. Can you feel the giant space behind the closed knees? And can you also feel that behind the eyes? Now, the eyes are related to the back body in Chinese medicine's bladder meridian. This is all connection. It's about reviving our subtle awareness, our rekindling our subtle language of connection. Isn't that amazing? And the inner thighs opening, saturated with life, the hips more spacious for it. Even the shoulders have more room to spread out. So let's come up to standing. Take your time. You want to start with just a neutral stance, so the feet, maybe look down at your feet, turn the feet parallel. And they're going to be relatively close in a natural stance. And lay the hands on the body if you like. Give yourself a moment here. And you're going to give the slightest movement, since again we're not really in the practice of holding a position. Sometimes it falls naturally into total and utter stillness. But here in standing, like the tree in the forest, you're going to let the hips sway just a little bit side to side, but go incredibly slow, like an iceberg moving through water. The cold plunge. And this is not just the choice to go slow. The slow velocity is held in a tonality of strength. So we've been playing with the metaphor lately of, instead of moving as if you're in water, is to move the planet. So the conscious monkey on top of a giant beach ball, use your feet to move the earth to one side, and your hips will go the other way. So it's this bilateral push and pull, the side to side push and pull, moving the ground right to go hips left, moving the ground to the left to go hips to the right. The head can stay over the midline for now, nice and quiet and peaceful, residing in the midline. As the midline becomes mid-space through this bilateral dance, the knees are bent a little, you're not tucking the pelvis, and you get more and more enthusiastic about moving the planet, this inertial and metaphorical power. Now when you start feeling the stretch, as you go deeper into your side bend, each side, you're going to work that side very powerfully. Let the arms be free. Let the head be free to look around, to loosen the neck, so that the neck is not tight. It's associating, the head is associating to the movement by just the power of observation and exploration. Navigating your environment, softening the eyes. Now what we're going to do is add to this side-to-side movement by breaking the feet loose, okay, and letting some footwork come in. So you're still moving side to side, but now you start to find what we call pivot. A pivot can happen in many ways. The main pivot is when we turn our hips, but that's not happening yet. The pivot here is in the hips, the individual sub-pivot of the hip joint, and how that turns the knee and the foot, and suddenly you have much more variety, a deeper vocabulary for the movement in this side-to-side dance, slower and stronger. Remember, you're moving the earth. Let the legs do things independently of each other. Slow it down. So move the earth and move yourself in water or clay. Really strong. And it's that engagement that it signifies a certain quality of devotion, a commitment, a participatory tone to showing up in this way, my friends. Slower and stronger, like almost intolerably slow. Now we're going to bend the knees more, dropping the gravity center. And this is going to tax the legs. It's going to really challenge the legs a lot more. And what I would invite you to do is see if, as the musculature of the legs and the whole lower body begins to functionally fatigue, it is the complexity of your movement and the variation of your movement that gives you staying power. You are a natural self-balancing organism. So the movement of how you articulate the hip rotation, how you articulate the feet and the core, really the whole body, gives you the chance to stay in this a little bit longer as you drop your hips even lower. And the feet end up dancing their way further apart, and you end up in these sort of like horse, like from the martial arts, horse stances or qigong, but you're moving in a very slow dance. And you end up inevitably turning a quarter turn to one side into an asymmetrical, you're basically combining the shape of standing with the shape of crouching, something like this. Okay? And what you want to do is as you turn 180 a few more times, lower the back knee closer to the floor and don't hold your breath. Breathe. Stay back away from the front foot. Okay, find your variations. Just turn 2 to 3 times per side. Oh, yes. Working. Now everything is in the fire consciously. Now, a quarter turn out of whichever side you're in. Keep your legs relatively wide, bend the knees, come down and touch. And we move into the key of folding, from standing to folding. Put your hands on the floor, palms down, bend the knees, walk the feet a bit closer together, just a little, and move side to side again. Now the legs are tired, so what we're going to do here is compensate by pushing down into the hands more. Keep the footwork open as you move side to side. So now the monkey is moving the earth side to side with both hands and both feet. The monkey, that means you. Breathe, everyone, breathe, breathe. You should be pretty tired in the legs. You're working deeply. Use your feet. Oh, let the head look about slowly. Pushing the hands down deeply into the ground, you'll be able to lift the low belly and the upper belly away from the ground. Strong core. Boy, now slowly coming down and have a seat. Have a seat. Take the right leg in front and lay down on your back. So we're going to keep the legs crossed. So lay down. So give all of that a chance to be witnessed, to hold space for ourselves, is to witness, to stay close to what we're cultivating all the time, which is an umbilical connection to source, to center through the deep core engine. And with the right leg crossed in front, Feel the legs and feel there's probably a bit of exposure through the inner hip. For some of you, if you're very mobile, very flexible, maybe this doesn't feel like a stretch at all. But regardless, find the sitting bones and try to reach the sitting bones a little bit more forward and down towards the floor. It's kind of like you're rolling over the buttocks, untucking the pelvis, creating a little bit of a back bend. Lay your hands on your belly, low and high. Now keep the sits bones pointing forward and down. The buttocks are gently on. The legs are gently on, okay? And then drop the belly closer and closer and closer to the ground without tucking the pelvis. So you're going to feel this deep, positive compression, this gravity, the sinking of the lake bed of the deep belly, cooling off the kidneys towards the ground. Usually though, when we find this, the sits bones start pointing towards the ceiling again, we're tucking the pelvis. So you want the sits bones down and the kidneys down too. So you're increasing your gravity by turning on the core. And this is deeply inviting for the mind. The mind can just unravel in the most positive way. It can let go of its tension as it's drawn down into the core. And it's quite strong in the legs. You're also opening your hips. Now try to spread the ground underneath you by broadening the space between the knees and broadening the sacrum, the inner thighs moving away from each other. Turn on every place that is stretched. Pull the shoulders into the ground. Soften the eyes. Now keep all of this power and press your legs out in front of you, uncrossing into like you would do in Shavasana and yoga. Now feel the soles of the feet totally blossoming and enjoy that. And everywhere else you feel a positive response to how you're showing up. Now, bring the legs together and then slide just the right foot in close to your hips. With the left leg still long out in front of you, bend the left knee a little bit, but keep the back of the left heel on the floor. Now, like we did with the crossed legs, we're going to point the sitting bones forward and down until you have a tiny back bend in your low back. And keep that, and then drop the low belly towards the floor to balance and neutralize that back bend. And go ahead and lift the hips off the ground. So it's like in a split bridge. You have the left leg long, the heel, the back of the left heel on the floor, lifting the hips higher and higher and higher by using both your feet pulling down and the shoulders pulling into the ground. Now hang your kidneys towards the ground so the pelvis is higher than the belly. Move side to side with the whole body, keeping the shoulders anchored. Now, when you lean to one side, you might lift one shoulder off the ground. That's fine. Take the hips higher, moving across the sky, side to side. Now, everyone make soft fists with your hands. Really tone the belly, soften the face, and move side to side, brushing as wide as you can. Left leg is long, right leg is much more bent. Lift as high as you can in the middle, and then slowly come down. Keep the legs, slowly come down. And then press both legs back out and rest. So there's this deep, complex contraction, this deep commitment in these shapes. And the shapes being relatively, closer, however familiar or unfamiliar they are for us, to us. They're human shapes. They're playful. And when you go in there and you turn everything on like that, and then you take a moment and release it all and see what has been touched. This is so much of the medicine. It informs us in so many ways. Like how we get into bed at night and we go to sleep more consciously. We feel these same connections again through our entire cellular matrix as we move off to sleep. And the sleep is more deep. It's a higher quality of rest. Most of the time. Okay, now stay on your back. Take your legs into that same cross-legged position, but now the left leg is in front. And once again, you can lay your hands on the pelvis, lay your hands on the belly, so you can feel these things maybe more closely, more intimately, as you point your sitting bones forward and down, creating a bit of a back bend under the lower lumbar spine. Okay, keep that. That's anterior rotation of the pelvis, right? It's the opposite of tucking. And then start to hollow the belly towards the floor without hooking the sits bones much at all towards the ceiling. And this is the tricky bit, because to keep the pelvis the way that it was just now and to drop the belly closer and closer to the ground, then the buttocks turn on, they should turn on, and the legs turn on, and suddenly your whole animal is active. And it's quite strong through the belly. And if you were to touch the belly, the sheets of the belly are smooth and close to the earth. Chest is open, lungs are full, wide open, shoulders wide. Now, pretend that there's a giant rubber band around both your knees, and you're going to pull your knees away from each other without moving them much. It's an action of widening, and the sacrum and tail widening, kidneys broadening, the back of the heart and lungs wide, the back of the cranium wide. Breathe. Turn yourself totally on. Don't be afraid to do that. Turn completely on to the point where you're almost trembling. It's like riding that front edge of a rolling thunder. Oh. Keep all of the strength as you push the legs out to straight, uncrossing, like you're pushing a wall out further away from you, and then let it relax for a moment as the legs naturally turn out. And once again, witness what you're doing for yourself. Giving a lot of TLC in our capacity to soften the tension that we tend to carry in the shoulders and the neck, the cranium, the upper body, the heart and the lungs. We're going to bring the legs together, toes pointed towards the ceiling. Keep your right leg straight and slide your left foot in pretty close to the hips. Okay, so bend the right knee a little bit away from the floor. Keep the back of the right heel on the floor. And once again, point the sits bones forward and down, a tiny back bend in your low spine. It's then neutralized by hollowing the belly towards the floor, pulling the feet down into the ground. Go ahead and lift. When you lift the hips, you should feel your right foot slide a little towards you. The right leg is mostly straight. So lifting the hips as high as you can, dropping the diaphragm a little bit, move the body side to side, mostly below the diaphragm, keeping the legs pretty close. Use your arms. If you straighten your arms out down by your sides and make fists, or take the backs of the hands to the floor, you can use the shoulders and the back body more effectively as you move side to side. The shoulder that you're leaning onto, you really tone that tricep and pull it into the floor. The shoulder pulling into the ground. Great for the posterior shoulder, rotator cuff history. It's really fantastic. And it's using both legs, even though the right leg is pretty straight. Breathe, everyone. Don't wait until this is over. Let the head look around randomly, free of the movement. Observing the movement in your surroundings. Oh, so strong. And then we're going to bring the hips to center. We're going to lower the hips down. Let the left leg back out in front of you again, both legs long. Let go of the breath so that it is free to share its wisdom. Okay. So go ahead and bend your knees, walk your feet in towards your hips. And let's do an adaptation of a yoga twist. So cross your right knee over your left knee and roll all the way onto your left side. So you go all the way onto your left side, your right knee will touch the floor, and you've got your left knee tucked in behind your right. And if this is too intense for the right knee, you can put a blanket or a mat under the right knee. Make a pillow with your left arm and set the right hand on the floor in front of the chest, diaphragm, with the elbow close to the body. And what we're going to do is keep the knees entangled and sweep the left foot out in front of you where you can see it. And turn the toes a little bit towards the floor, the left toes. Okay, now softly reach the right arm up into the sky and turn the head initially to look up at the right hand. So you end up, if your head and neck turn far enough, you'll end up resting the back of the cranium on the left palm. Now take a moment and lift the left low ribs off the ground and draw the kidneys back behind you to your right. And pull the sitting bones behind you to your right. So a little more sass on the pelvis as you untuck the pelvis, strong belly, just as we were doing laying on our back cross-legged. Now turn just the head to look past the arm. Then reach the right arm where you can still see it. Now very powerfully turn the lower body from the diaphragm all the way down to your toes to the left, pulling the left kidney away from the floor, pulling the low left ribs towards the right hand, turning the head by loosening the neck, even though we're very active, loosening any unnecessary tension in the cervical space. Open the chest. Again, pull the left kidney to your right. Push through the left heel. Breathe. Really soak your spine. Let the left hand tease a little bit more length out of the back of the head, from the back of the head to the tail. Good. Now, stay strong. Roll back onto your left side. Put the right hand down on the floor in front of you. And then unwind the legs. Uncross the legs. Extend the left leg out. Roll onto your back consciously and rest. Resting in a way that gives a deep opportunity for witness, to experience. So your whole right side will respond. You're probably feeling a lot in the right side of the neck. Let it invite the right shoulder to melt. You might feel really long on your right side, right heel to right temple. Then bend your knees, walk your feet in, and cross your left knee over your right knee, and roll all the way onto your right side. Stay closer to the microphone for you guys. So, setting up as we did before. So extend the right leg out in front of you. You should be able to see the right foot in front of the toes. Point the toes a little towards the floor. That just gives a nice groundedness by pushing through the right heel. Left knee is down. And making a pillow with the right arm. Reach up through the left arm. And go ahead and lift the right low ribs a little bit off the ground as you look up. And then the initial turn, right, is to look past the shoulder, past the arm with the head and with the eyes. Now pull the sitting bones to your left, turn the buttocks on, especially the right side glutes. And that's going to be found more by pushing through the right heel. So the right low ribs are off the ground and pulling back a little bit without tucking the pelvis. Then reach the left arm around another 40, 50, 60 degrees. Let the head follow. Now you got to be strong enough in your counter rotation to turn the lower half of the body to the right. So slide the left knee more to the right. Pull the right hip more to your left. Untuck. Turn the entire face of the belly to the right as your head looks left. Supporting the back of the cranium with the right palm. Everything is on. Everything is super present. Now slip your breath between the vertebrae. It's not the stretch you're looking for. It is the deep spiral movement, but held within tremendous, fantastic strength. Turn the left thumb a little more towards the floor for the left shoulder. Stay strong as you reach back around with the left hand. Turn onto your right side. Put the left hand down in front of the diaphragm. And then sliding the right leg out of the back. Roll onto your back. Take a moment. So twisting in this way as a technology really decompresses the trauma and the grief from the lungs, the heart, the kidneys. It is a way of consciously releasing our past, both positive and negative. Give a little special attention to the neck and any release you're feeling in the cervical space. Beautiful, everyone. And bend the knees, slide the feet in close to the hips, and let's come up to a seat once again. Sitting comfortably. Close the eyes, or at least soften the eyes, and feel how just the change in your orientation with gravity is so yummy. Go ahead and take the right leg in front. Sitting cross-legged with the right leg in front if you're not already. Let's just allow for a spontaneous phrase of movements to show up here spontaneously, intuitively. I will guide you. So a good mantra, a good way to reset and to recenter is to find your pelvis, okay? And so you might find, like, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but there's just this very subtle sort of, like we did in the beginning of the practice, a little bit of an anterior-posterior movement of the pelvis. So this gives us a sense of awareness, a sense of spatial awareness, spatial integrity in the root of ourselves. Getting way up high on the sits bones so you can't really get any taller through the spine. It all begins in the core. It all begins with ground, whether we're sitting or laying down. Now, with the right leg in front, we're going to orient to our left, a quarter turn to your left, and you're going to put your left hand down and lift into a short crouch, the shape of a crouch. The right leg leads. And we're going to move forward and back here. And the pulsation being forward and back gives you a lot to play with, especially if you can sit way back until the right leg is almost straight. And then as you reach forward, so now the monkey, that's us, we're pulling and pushing on the ground in a way that moves it forward and back. So pulling with the feet, pulling the ground behind you with your feet moves your body forward, and pushing the ground forward with your feet moves your body back. Go slow. Try turning the right leg out, turning the back leg out as well more so the knees are pointing out towards the toes as you continue to move anterior front, posterior back. Hang the head, let the head look around, let the breath be wild and free, the wind through the trees on the mountain. And then, crawling, keep your right leg where it is, walk your hands, take your left foot off the floor and walk way out in front into a lunge. Delay putting the left foot down. Now in the shape of a lunge, you're going to bend the left knee and lengthen the back leg, but don't try to straighten the back leg. Just reach the left knee forward and the right heel back. Play with how you rotate your hips, how you rotate your legs, how you walk your hands around in the shape. Backing up and then leaning into it again and again. exploring and resisting your own movement. Wherever you feel a stretch, be strong. Then we're going to slide the right foot just behind the left into an asymmetrical squat. The left leg is leading. The right leg can turn anywhere from straight ahead all the way out to 90 degrees or more. Setting the fingertips down on the ground, rock a little bit forward and back here. Just playing with the micro massage, the micro reorganization of the hips, the knees, the ankles, the feet, the low back. And then simply turn around to your right 180 degrees. So the right foot is leading in your squat. And you continue to move front to back, or however you find your pulsation moving you in the squat. Just as a general rule, as you've heard many times, point the thighs and the feet beneath them in the same direction most of the time, especially when you're loading the legs. Great. Now just sit, turn to your left a quarter turn and sit down and let the right leg be in front again. So we end up where we started. Then from here, what we're going to do is turn to our left, stay low, all the way around through the squat. If you turn 360, you'll end up with the left leg in front, which is kind of a fun little trick. Stay here for a moment. So our power of self-regulation is to be in a practice of perpetual letting go of the things that we can discern we do not need to carry forward. So see if you can feel as everything settles and unwinds and clarifies that we can, by bearing more deeply witness to the experience, we can let go of the armoring and the ballast that we may not need to carry. So to take this to the other side, we're going to look to the right, set the right hand down, turning a quarter turn to your right, lift the hips into a crouch, and have your left leg in front. You're just going to move about, mostly front to back. And also try not to let your pelvis move on a totally linear track. You can make an elliptical movement of the hips, forward and back. There's a little bit of width to your movement. Also, a lot of variation comes in how you pivot the hips, how you turn each hip in or out. Wow. Dropping the hips a little lower, empty the head and the neck, let the head look around freely. What we're going to do is walk our hands out in front of us, keep the left foot, lift the right foot off the floor, and keep crawling slow. Slow. Go as far as you can before you put your right leg forward in a lunge. Move around in the lunge, explore. We are explorers. Try turning the right leg out, the knee and foot pointing way out to the side. Try turning the back leg in. Loading the hands and the shoulders consciously. Then we're going to slide the left foot just behind the right into a squat, a symmetrical squat, right foot leading. See what you can find here with regard to variation. Turning around to your left 180 degrees until the left leg leads, tracking your movement as you turn. Continue to move, see what's possible. Really working the kinks out of the low back, the sacral plexus. And then a simple quarter turn to your right. You end up sitting with the left leg in front. And let's just stay here. I'm just going to move into the final phrase of our practice, so we'll repeat 2 or 3 times to see what we have time for. Start with sitting with the left leg in front, okay? And what we're going to do is simple. We're going to catch hold of the left foot with 2 hands and fly your left leg out in front of you. And you can do that however you like. The key here is to move within this shape of sitting. When we pull on the leg using our strong back and push the leg into the hands equal to that pull, we find a sense of harmony in the hip and a sense of core that is just inherent in the push-pull even against ourselves. It's so valuable. Try bending the knee more, try extending the leg more without a stretch, moving freely. And then all we're going to do is bring that left foot in and set it on the floor just inside or just up against the sole of the right foot, like this. And we're going to wrap the left arm around the left knee and just kind of hug ourselves in close to the left thigh. Keeping that, lean the whole thing over to the right until you touch the right knee with your right shoulder. And using the right hip, push into the floor and come back up. Yeah. Good. Pause. And what we're going to do is release that. Set your left hand back behind you. And then extend your left leg out about 45 degrees to your left and the toes turning to your left. Good. Now from here, using the left arm or both arms, push, side bend and push on the left side, rolling onto the left shoulder. You can even kiss the left temple to the ground. And then as you come back up, keep the legs. We're going to look over to your right, and we're going to go something like this. You're going to set your left hand down outside the right knee. Slide the right arm way out in front of you. Track the shoulders well and float the left leg way back and up, heel higher than the toes. You can get as far down as to lay down here and lay the right temple on the right bicep. Then using the hands, the counterbalance of the left leg, push back up. Okay, and then from here, we're going to climb up into a crouch, right leg leading. So we stayed oriented to that right side. Right leg is in the lead in a longer stance crouch now. Move around in this. Oh. Hop your back leg over to the right across the midline and continue to move in a crossing crouch. And then uncross, bringing the left leg out from behind you, set the feet next to each other. And then fly the right leg back and up, lengthening the standing leg like a half moon in yoga. We're going to stand up. And as you come up, bring the right foot down in front of you, just crossing over the midline. Now, with the right leg crossing the left again, fold back down into a crouch. Move around, right is crossing left. But as you do this, hop your left foot further back and to the right. Now, just turn a little bit to your left, 45 to your left, and uncross. And then drop back onto the left leg into a long squat with the right foot leading. Put the hands on the earth. And then rock over onto your left hip and have a seat. Bring the right leg in front. Pause. Okay, so let's go again. I'm going to grab hold of the right foot now, 2 hands, and pull on the foot, on the leg, as the leg pushes into the hands until the pull and the push are equal to each other. Fly the leg around. Creatively, you can release one hand every once in a while. Ooh, you can change the grip. Just very intuitive, a monkey playing around in your own tree. Very conscious of the stimulation at the deep cellular level, the detox, and the conscious squeeze and release. You're going to bring the foot down and set it on the floor, resting up against the sole of the left foot. Wrap your right arm around your right knee and just come in a little bit close to the right leg, and then lean to the left until the left shoulder touches the left knee. Using the power of the left hip, push into the ground, come back up. Set your right hand down behind you on your right side. Extend your right leg forward and right, turning the foot out, like this. Okay, now we're going to roll over onto that right side and do a push-up. Loading the right shoulder. Use your left hand if you need assistance. And coming back up. Now look to your left. Slide the left hand way out. Set your right hand down just inside or out to the left of your left knee. Pushing, use mostly the right hand here to take your weight. As you lean into it, lay it down and lift the right leg. Then from here, coming back up and setting the left leg forward into crouch. And moving around in the crouch. It's one of the most versatile shapes. The key of crouching, you can really goof around and play with all of the major joints, all of the minor joints. And then we're going to hop the back leg, the right leg over to our left, crossing the midline. So your left leg is still in front. You've crossed left over right. And now the movement is going to be a little more limited in the pelvis. It's going to move more diagonally between the feet. Then uncross the legs, stepping the right foot out next to the left. Balance on the right leg and push the left leg back and way up, lengthening the standing leg as you stand up, and then just simply dropping the left foot forward across the midline, left over right. Bend the knees, folding, coming down into a crossing crouch, fold. So once again, deja vu, you were just here. Moving again, but as you do this and you rock the pelvis in the movement, you're going to take the right leg and drop it way back and to the left a little more. Now careful with this, because you're going to turn 45 degrees to your right and back up into a squat on the right leg, the left leg in front. Lower the right hip to the ground and sit with the left leg in front. Oof. You see how so much of this practice points to becoming more familiar with the ground, getting up and down off the ground, more familiar with diversity in gravity. Catch hold of the left foot. Fly the left leg for a moment. Pull and push. And that's the yummy harmony you'll find where the hamstrings in the left leg are working to push the leg forward and the hands and the back of the body pulling. The hamstrings don't really feel as much of a stretch as they do, just work and engagement and function. And when you set the left foot down on the floor, resting up against the sole of the right foot, wrap your left arm around your left knee and lean to your right, the right shoulder touching the right knee. Loosen the neck. Stay here for a moment. Look down. And look up, slow. Come back up. Okay, set your left hand down behind you. Slide your left leg out, 45, toes to the left. Go ahead and roll to the left, pushing. This is very challenging for the left shoulder, depending on your geometry. Use your free hand if you need to. Push back up. Now to your right, put the left hand down outside the right knee. Slide the right hand forward. Take the left leg opposite the right hand and float it. Lift it up, heel higher than the toes. Then looking to your right, come back up. Crouch, right leg leading. And the change in the shape and also the orientation to the ground is an opportunity to unravel any tension, any residual tension from things that have just happened. Kick the back leg, the left leg over to your right, and crossing in your crouch, continue to dance. Then uncross, left leg steps out next to the right. Balance on the right leg, on the left leg. Push the right leg back and up and lift, standing. And as you come up, simply cross the right foot over the left. Come down and crouch again and slide the left leg back diagonally again. So right over left, cross and crouch. So you were just here. Turn 45 degrees to your left, facing the right leg. Drop back onto a squat on your left leg. Put the left knee down, use your hands, have a seat, and sit wrapping the right leg in front. Free your breath. Free your eyes, your heart, your lungs. Keep the belly attentive, close, but not rigid. Stay high up on the sits bones. Lay your tail feathers out on the ground behind you. We're almost done. We're going to just go through this on the other side one more time. So start with catching the right foot. Fly the right leg. Pull and push. That's the harmony you're looking for. I'm going to set the right foot down on the floor, resting against the sole of the left foot. Wrap your right arm around your right knee and leaning left. Once the left shoulder lands, look down, almost behind you. Slowly look up. Keep the eyes soft, belly strong. The body is holding strong as the head looks around. Pushing the left hip into the floor. Come back up. Set your right hand down off to the right. Right leg out. Turn the right leg out. Roll onto the right arm. Pushing. Coming back up. Then over on your left side, put the right hand down to the left of the left knee. Slide the left leg, fly the right leg back opposite your head. Lift the heel higher than the toes. And then from here, come up, pop into a crouch, left leg leading. Hop the back leg across the midline over to your left. Turning the head softly, look around your environment so you're not confined in the neck or the eyes. And then uncross, set the feet next to each other. Balance on your right leg. Press your left leg back and up like a half moon, lifting the hip and standing up. Bringing the left foot down in front of you, crossing over the midline. And as you come back down, crossing, hop your right foot further back into the left. And a 45-degree turn to your right. Facing your left foot, drop into a squat on your right leg. And then set the right knee down. Have a seat. Left leg wraps in front. Beautiful, everyone. Go ahead and come lying down on your back. In any position you feel intuitively would offer a great opportunity to rest. Become familiar with the more we inhabit the midline, the mid-space. The more we inhabit that space, the more subtly we're able to feel that we begin to have this profound choice to empty the midline. And this is the transition from what feels like a line into a mid-space. So the metaphor of the great bamboo, becoming that hollow, open, potential space inside that is held and is vital and it is quiet. All of the world can exist around us and within us, and yet we have access to our source axis. And then when we recognize tension in the heart, or tension in the pericardium, we recognize tension in the throat, the brainstem, the pelvic floor. These are just places that tend to commonly hold. We can choose to release it. And that's not control. It's the opposite. It's that deep letting go. And therein lies your true power in release. If you feel relatively good, the mind will take advantage of it and go on its journey. That is fine. That is natural. But there's still a part of your consciousness called discernment, or your power of witness, that is able to stay connected, stay in the moment. How do we remain in presence? There is a perpetual release happening that allows you to come back again and again until you can actually just stay sitting in the moment. Or laying down, whatever you're doing, just you can remain. So this is the paradox, the choice to let go is a choice to return. Such a beautiful movement, such a beautiful practice, and an honor to share it, everyone. Thank you for coming out on in your day, and much gratitude, blessings. I'll see you soon.